Hello, everyone. I am Stéphanie Launay, producer of animation films at Komadoli Studio, and I'm happy to see you all with this invitation for key events in Africa and in line with the Annecy Film Festival. I would have liked us to meet for the MIFA around the lake at Annecy. I hope this will be the case next year, but I'm happy to meet again with those that I already know, who, since I participated to the FESPACO in Madagascar or the FICAM Meknès, which are emblematic film festivals and give and showcase animation. I'm also happy to meet with new actors in the field and see that this field is expanding. So after this introduction, first I would like to present you the different panelists who participated in animation development in their countries. I will start with Moussa Sawadogo, General Delegate of FESPACO Festival in Ouagadougou. So it's a festival that is organized every 2 years and is preparing its 26th edition. You celebrated your 50th years of existence in 2019, 20 years, sorry. You also participated in different film festivals in Africa and created the Generation Film Collective to co-produce with Ouaga Film Lab. So Mohamed Beyoud, director of the FICAM Festival in Meknès, Morocco, organized by Aisha and the institution France Meknès. You are a cultural delegate. Meknès is the major festival dedicated to animation in Africa. You were also part of the jury in Annecy a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And Laza, director of RFC Festival Madagascar, a reference for short animation films. You founded your company in 2006, and you are also part of the Pan-African Alliance of Screenwriters, Directors. Abel Kouamé, artistic director of the FFAA Festival Abidjan, Ivory Coast. You are also worked with Africa Toon, which produced 5 animation films. Moly Kane, here you are, founder of the Dakar Festival in Senegal. You are director, producer, and you're organizing the 4th edition of Dakar Xavier Simonin, you is actor, director, director of Globe and Ciel Ouvert Film Festival in the Saint Louis region. You are preparing your 6th edition of the festival for 2022. And finally, Jérôme Sofo Simo, General Delegate of the CANIMAF Festival in Yaoundé, Cameroon. You created Toussanim, and you are also director and passionate about animation films. I know that you are all preparing the next edition of your film festival in a very difficult, troubled context. As we know, some haven't been able to organize the edition of 2020, others in hybrid formats only, but thank you for accepting this invitation and sharing your experiences with us. So first of all, I will ask you to tell us about your events and your reasons for this interest in animation. What place has European, French animation or African animation in your films? Are there more specificities that you'd like to discuss? Maybe Moussa, you can start and talk about the FESPACO festival. Yes, thank you, Stéphanie. So I think that Mr. Azou could have taken the floor, but I'd like to say that animation in FESPACO had already existed in the past, but it didn't have a special place. It existed in other programs and short films, feature films. When, you know, in the African continent, the animation feature film films were very rare in the past. So since the last edition, the delegation thought about how to give an important place to animation films now. And as Stéphanie said, there's a new taste for this animation film. So what we did, we saw in Morocco, in Madagascar, in Senegal as well, this new taste and desire for animation film, and new producers launch in this format and adventure. So it was important to have such an event as the FESPACO Festival. And once again, it was important to open these possibilities to these young creators, young people working in animation film, to have a place in this film festival so they can make themselves known, have a contact with producers, financial partners, for example, and leading the delegation to create a special place for animation film in 2019. Great. Mohamed, are you preparing the 19th edition of your festival? And this is dedicated to animation film, correct? Yes, first of all, thank you for this invitation and creating the network with the others, because we work together, but it's really good to get to know one another. And I think that's one of the main obstacles I've been faced to in Africa, is not to be able to contact my peers. So my festival is a festival dedicated to animation. We started in 2001. It was the first animation festival completely dedicated to animation in Africa. And it is a good example of partnership between a public institution and the French Institute in Meknès, working with the Foreign Affairs Ministry, and another private company, Aisha, which also has consumable goods, food goods. And in 2020, we started communicated around animation films. So the Aisha doll was created by Uderzo. And we went to see them, meet with them in 23. We became partners. We now co-organize things together. So we are organizing the 19th edition, and it will be rehandled since we will use films from the 2020 edition, and this will take place starting on 16th October 2021. So it's international competition. If I'm not mistaken, I see that in 2020 you focused on African animation. Yes, if our festival is in the mail that you sent us. In fact, what was very interesting to prepare this meeting, there were things that we had worked on audiences, the different types of audiences, and young audiences, namely. And before meeting with the Aisha Foundation, in 2004, we organized workshops. We were the only ones to welcome more than 200 students coming from all of Morocco, students in film, audiovisual. There was also, it was opened up to the theater school as well, and scenography school that takes part in our workshops. There are storyboard workshops, script writing workshops, and there are two competitions we organize, feature films and short films, that started 15 years ago. And we have started the call for projects So this call for projects helps provide 5,000 euros to a young Moroccan person who wishes to film his first film.
Merci Mohamed.
So thank you,
Là,
Mohamed.
peut-être à
Laz
Madagascar,
in
sur les
Madagascar, Laza,
RFC,
for
tu
the
prépares la 16e
RFC
édition
Festival.
cette
You're
année. Est-ce que tu
preparing
peux
the
nous en dire
16th
quelques mots?
edition. Could you tell us a few
Tu parles du
words
festival, hein?
about the
Oui,
festival, of course?
merci pour
Yes, thank you
merci pour
very much for this
l'invitation de participer
invitation.
à ce panel que je trouve
I'm very happy
très,
to
très
participate in
intéressant,
this
même
panel.
si
It's a very interesting
il n'y a
meeting,
pas autant de
despite
femmes
the
que
fact we don't
d'hommes
have as
quand
many
je vois
women as
l'interview, hein,
men, if I can see
responsable un
things
peu de tout
well.
ce qui se passe en Afrique.
So
Moi,
this is representative
les
of what
rencontres
is
de
happening
films
in
courts,
Africa. But what I see in the short
j'ai créé ce
films, I
festival en
created this
2006
festival in
et
2006.
le
And the
premier prix
first
qu'on a
prize
eu, en fait,
that
c'était un
we
film d'animation.
organized was for
C'était un
animation.
peu comme un
It
révélateur
was
pour
a
nous. Donc, depuis le début,
reveal for
on
us.
a mis nos focus
We
sur ce
focused,
thème
therefore, on
sur
animation.
chaque édition, on met en place des
And
workshops. Vous
we
savez, il faut
organize
savoir,
workshops as
Moussa en a
well.
parlé un peu tout à
Moussa
l'heure,
mentioned it
que,
before,
en fait, pour
but
préparer un peu ce panel,
to
j'ai
prepare
regardé
this
un peu les
panel, what I did is I
statistiques
looked at statistics,
dans les 15
and in
dernières
the
années,
last 15 years,
l'Afrique, avec un peu
Africa,
plus d'1 milliard
with
d'habitants, est
over
devenue
1
incapable
billion
de produire ne
inhabitants,
serait-ce qu'un film d'animation tous les 2-3
produces
ans.
animation films
Long métrage,
only 2-3
je dois dire,
years
moi, je trouve ça
in
triste
animation. So I find
et
it
en même
very
temps
sad
aberrant
and quite
alors que nous,
surprising
ce
and
qu'on essaye de faire un peu
bewildering.
dans le cadre de notre
So
festival,
this is what we're trying to do in
il
our
y a
film
beaucoup de
festival.
problèmes. Moi, je ne veux
Of
pas
course, we're
vous,
confronted
on va
to
pas se
major
focaliser que
problems.
sur
We're
les
not going to
problèmes du
focus on
Yaoundé parce qu'il y a
problems
aussi des
only today
solutions.
because solutions do exist.
Donc, il y a, on
And
met en place des
there
formations
are
dans le
training
festival,
sessions
on
that are
produit
organized.
des
We
films
produce
pendant le
films
festival.
in festivals.
Je
I
peux vous
can
citer
quote
quelques, enfin,
a few
je peux vous citer
examples.
quelques exemples en
In
entre 2010 et 2011, on a
2010,
mis en place
11,
avec
we set
CFI
up
une
a
résidence
residency,
où à la
and in
fin,
the
on a
end,
pu
we
produire
were
un
able
film
to produce an
d'animation.
animation film.
On a pu
We were
aussi
also
aider
able to help a
quelques
few
réalisateurs
directors
à avoir un peu ce qu'on
to have
appelait
a
summer school
subsidy
là. On
for
est
a summer
présent
school.
depuis
And we
3 ans
also, for
maintenant
3
au MIFA
years,
à
are present
Annecy.
at the MIFA in
Donc, ce que
Annecy.
on
And
essaye
what
de
we're
faire
trying,
ce qu'on
we
peut
try to do whatever
dans
we
le cadre
can
des RFC,
in this
mais
RFC festival
pour moi, c'est
framework,
que des
but
solutions
these are
d'urgence, en fait.
just emergency solutions
Moussa
from you.
disait tout à
Moussa
l'heure que
said
le
before that
FESPACO
the
a créé
FESPACO
une sélection, une
created a
compétition film
competition in
d'animation récemment,
animation
puisque je crois que ça date
recently
de
because
l'édition dernière, je crois
it only
2019.
started in the last
Vous, au
edition.
RFC,
For
vous avez
you at
une compétition
RFC,
qui est
you
très
have a
africaine
Pan-African
et
competition,
qui a,
and it
depuis
has
plusieurs
for
années,
several
effectivement, une
years
section spécifique
now
animation. Et
hosted
aussi
an
pour encourager
animation section.
la
So it is to
production et la
encourage
création africaine.
this
Et en
production and
fait,
animation in Africa.
depuis maintenant
Yes,
2011,
since 2011,
2012,
2012,
nous avons une
we
compétition
have
panafricaine sur
organized
l'animation. Donc au
a
début, on
Pan-African
faisait
competition. It
annuellement.
was a yearly
Mais on s'est
competition,
rendu
but we
compte au bout de la
realized after
deuxième
the second
édition
edition
qu'il n'y avait pas assez
that
de
we
films.
didn't have enough
Donc
films.
maintenant, on le fait tous
So
les 2
now
ans.
we're doing
La
it every
compétition
2
panafricaine sur
years.
l'animation, c'est tous les 2 ans.
It's held every 2
On
years,
reçoit
and
quand
we
même beaucoup de
receive a
films.
lot of films, a good number of
Donc
Vous
films.
recevez combien de
How many
films à
films
peu
do
près
you
par an,
receive
tous les 2
approximately
ans?
every 2 years?
50-60
50 or
films
60
court
films,
métrage
short films,
qui viennent d'un peu
that
partout en
come from
Afrique,
all over
avec
Africa.
mon poste aussi de président de la
And
PACER,
as the president of the
j'ai la
PACER,
chance de
I'm
voyager
lucky
un peu
to
partout en
travel
Afrique
everywhere in Africa,
et je
and
rencontre
I
beaucoup
meet a lot
d'animateurs en
of
fait
animateurs
dans les pays
in
qui
the
sont
countries
pas
that are
forcément
not
des
necessarily
répertoriés entre guillemets.
known as
Moi,
making
ce
animation.
qui m'a
So
halluciné
that's
toujours à
what
chaque
I'm
édition maintenant, c'est
always
que
extremely
ça produit en
surprised.
fait. Donc, bien
Their
évidemment,
films
c'est
produced,
tous ces gens-là,
all these
ces femmes,
people,
ces jeunes
these
femmes et
young women and
ces
young
jeunes hommes,
men
ils
are
apprennent
learning
le métier, enfin, ils apprennent
the job, the
faire des
work.
films avec
They're
toute
learning
la
how to
hiérarchie du
make
Kane et tout ça.
films
C'est
with
exactement ce qui s'est passé à Madagascar.
tutors
Donc, vous savez
on
qu'ici, on fait des
tutoring
films
sessions on
avec, on va
YouTube.
en
That's
prendre
how they have
télécharge avec des
access to
librairies.
training,
crée
and
des
then
logiciels et on fait
we
des films
look at,
comme ça.
they use the
Alors peut-être
software, and that
je pense que ce n'est pas
kind of steal the
vraiment
software, and that's how they're able to make
un
films. But it's not
modèle qui peut
a
durer dans le
model or
temps,
a
parce que de
model that
toute
can
façon, il faut
last in time,
structurer
because
beaucoup de
we need
choses,
to bring
mais au moins
structure
ça
and
produit.
organization. But at least
Et
things are
il
produced
y
or
a
made,
beaucoup de,
and there
effectivement, il y a quand
are
même quelques
a lot
associations sur
of
l'animation qui
associations that
s'écrivent.
work
Nous,
on
ici à
animation,
Madagascar, il y
and
en a même
we have
deux.
two
Et
in
depuis 2011
Madagascar.
aussi, on
Since
a créé un fonds
2011, we
d'aide
also create an aid fund that helps finance
ce type de
all
court
kinds of
métrage. Mais
projects and short
là,
film
on peut quand même
projects.
produire trois courts
And
métrages avec ça.
we were able to produce 3 short
Donc voilà
films.
à peu près ce que
So this is what
je peux
I
vous
can
dire
tell
sur
you
ce qu'on fait ici.
about films here.
Merci
Thank
Laza.
you
Alors du
very
coup, peut-être
much,
effectivement
Laza.
sur la
So
production et le
about
lien justement
production
avec les
and the
sociétés de
link with
production
production
locales,
companies,
peut-être qu'Abel va
local
pouvoir
companies,
aussi nous
maybe
parler de son festival.
Abel can tell
Alors je
us
ne sais pas
about
Abel si
his
tu as une
film festival.
compétition, s'il
I
y a des
don't know if you have
panoramas
a
effectivement
competition. Is it
de films
do you have a
d'animation
panorama
européens,
of
internationaux. Est-ce que
European
tu peux nous
animation
en dire
films,
plus sur le
African
Festival du film
films?
d'animation
Can you tell us
d'Abidjan
more about the
qui est à sa
Abidjan
quatrième édition, je crois?
FFAA festival? I think it's the
Oui, c'est
4th
ça.
edition.
Bonjour
Yes.
Stéphanie,
Hello,
bonjour
everyone.
à tous les panélistes.
Hello to all of the panelists.
Effectivement, le festival, donc le FFA,
The
Festival du film d'animation
FFAA
d'Abidjan,
festival in
a été
Abidjan was
créé,
created
enfin, a eu
or
une première édition en
had its first
2018, donc
edition in
là on est
2018.
la quatrième
It's the 4th
édition.
edition now,
Alors, ça a été créé par une
and
association
it
qu'on a mise en
was launched
place
by an
ici à
association
Abidjan,
created
donc
here in
une
Abidjan,
association ivoirienne du film d'animation.
a animation film
Ces
association.
studios-là avaient estimé
The
qu'il
studio
était important,
estimated it
en
was
plus des productions,
important,
pour commencer
on top of the
à se faire
production,
localement. Il
to
fallait
be done
avoir un
locally.
cadre
We needed a
pour permettre
framework to
à ces
help
œuvres-là
these
d'être
works
présentes, d'être
to be
présentées
presented in an
dans les
official
festivals.
way in
Donc,
film
c'est ce qui a
festivals. And
poussé. Donc,
this
l'association a été
pushed
créée en
the
2014 et le festival,
association
la première
created in
édition, n'a pas eu lieu en 2018.
2014 to
Au départ, c'est
pursue.
vrai
And in
que,
the
comme Laza
beginning,
a dit,
it is
on
true
n'allait pas forcément avoir
that we
suffisamment de
didn't
contenu
expect to have enough
en tout cas de
contents,
contenus locaux
or
africains
at least
pour
enough
pouvoir
African
faire une
contents to have a
programmation qui
real
fait sens pour un
programming that
festival.
was
Mais
important enough for a
finalement, on a
film
été
festival.
agréablement
But we
surpris
were
par la quantité et la qualité
surprised
des
in a
programmes
good
qu'on a
way,
reçus pour la première
positively, for
édition.
the first edition.
Par la
And
suite,
after that,
au fur et à mesure, puisque nous, le
in
festival
fact,
est
the
annuel.
festival
Donc,
is held
on fait
annually every year.
des
So
éditions
there
chaque année.
are
Et on s'est
editions
rendu compte
every
qu'au niveau
year,
de
and
la
we noticed that
programmation,
in
les
terms of
contenus locaux, donc
programming,
africains, on commençait à s'essouffler. On commençait à
we
recevoir de
were
moins
starting
en
to
moins de programmes locaux. Donc, on s'est dit, en
receive
plus
less
de la
local
programmation, il fallait mettre
programs,
derrière
but we felt
de
that
la
we
formation. Parce
had
que
to
c'est
provide
important. Je pense qu'il y a quand
information
même suffisamment, il y a quand même
because
des
we
talents qui
knew that
existent
these
également en
talents
Afrique.
existed in Africa,
Ils sont
and
passionnés d'animation,
people
ils
are
ont envie de se
passionate
lancer
with
dans
animation
ce
films
secteur, dans
here.
ce
They
segment,
love
mais
this
ils ne savent
field,
peut-être pas comment
but
s'y
they don't
prendre, comment
necessarily know
démarrer.
how to
Il y a des
start.
écoles qui
There
existent,
are
mais
existing
qui n'est pas
schools,
forcément dédiée à l'animation.
not
Donc, ceux-là,
necessarily
il fallait les
dedicated to
accompagner pour
animation,
pouvoir finalement
but
avoir
we
une
saw
boîte intéressante
that
qui va pouvoir
we
peut-être
could
produire de
have
façon
actions
régulière
to
des
help
animations de court métrage,
organize
peut-être à
and
terme d'assurer
produce
du long
these
terme.
films.
Donc, c'est un peu dans cette
So
dynamique-là
this
qu'on
is
est. Donc, du
the
coup, en plus du
momentum
festival
that
qui fait
existed
trois
and we
jours, qui
had,
dure 3 jours, on a mis
and
en place une
we
formation donc,
set up a
une semaine
training
avant le
1 week
festival.
before the film
Donc,
festival,
c'est des
and
formations à
these
faire. Donc, on
are
essaie de
trainings
voir
with
vraiment ce qui fait
different
sens
topics,
pour une
and we
édition. Donc, on a fait des
we
formations
organize
pour la
trainings
lutte traditionnelle et tout ça.
on
Donc, voici un peu
traditional
en gros.
techniques.
Vous avez accueilli
And then you
des
welcomed
professionnels prestigieux cette année. J'ai vu que vous
prestigious
aviez notamment
professionals, very famous people.
Sébastien Onomo.
Sébastien
Alors, je ne sais pas
Onomo, I
s'il
don't know
a encadré
if
une formation,
he
mais
was
c'est vrai que vous aviez
training during your
une
workshops,
belle
but
programmation
he
cette
was
année.
a trainer, but you had
Oui, cette année,
an incredible
effectivement, on a
program.
reçu bien
Yes,
sûr
this year
Sébastien Onomo
we,
qui a
yes, had,
cette
we
tournée
invited
directeur. On
Mr.
a également
Onomo. We
reçu Aaron
also
Varno, donc, qui
received
est le
Aaron Varno,
producteur de
producer.
Spider-Verse. Bon, c'est quand même quelqu'un qui est quand même
So
assez bien
he is
connu
someone who is well
dans l'industrie
known
hollywoodienne
in the generally in production, but animation also, because he produced animation films, and we received very interesting people. So we need to train these young people, stimulate them, and we need to create links, connections. So it is true that you're making films, but you feel there's not going to be a future for them. So we need to implement an ecosystem. If we want it to become an industry, we need to believe in this future, in the projects, and we need professionals, not necessarily African or in Ivory Coast, but who can deliver information and inspire these young people. Yes, I think that is also the approach that Jérôme has in Cameroon. He created the CANIMAF festival, and it is its fourth edition as well, just like in Abidjan. Could you, Jérôme, tell us a few words about your festival?
Bonjour.
Yes, hello.
Merci
Thank you for inviting me. I'd like to say hello to all the panelists. So for CANIMAF, I created it in 2017 after a participation of the Annecy Film Festival, which was supported namely by the French Institute of Cameroon. And it was during a program for special pitch of Cameroon that I organized my organization, my group, and it was to enable a young person to participate to this pitch. And this process was supported in Cameroon. So this was done in 2018 with a good success. And we decided with the Toussaint animation group to take part. The interpreter apologizes, the sound is breaking up. And the theaters were closed. You're experiencing issues with the connection, but you're back. I said most of the movie theaters are closed in Africa, and we only have the French Institute that helps us screen these films. So we thought it was interesting to federate, to bring together all these young people, all those in animation. And I organized the CANIMAF, which in 3 years has helped many young talents, young people, a lot of studios or people working in the shadows. So we promoted these training sessions, these workshops, and we have practical trainings per theme. So we will have an artistic residency organized. The residency is a new project that you're organizing at CANIMAF. Yes, we're going to work on the development of a project. It's to be able to have a production file that is comprehensive, so they can respond to call for projects, Grand Talent, for different animation films around the world. And there are screenwriters who have good ideas but aren't able to gather young people around them and to do the design of the film, the creative aspect of the film. This is why I decided to create this residency, 10 days residency, to help these young people. So there are many different themes that are worked on so that the producers can go from the research phase to the financing. I think that in Senegal, in the À Ciel Ouvert Film Festival, there's also a residency project. Xavier will tell us about it. It's a festival that is a multidiscipline and it's a bit different. Perhaps, Xavier, you can tell us about it. It's a more cross-sectional festival. So I believe you started in the last edition. You had a stop-motion film made during a workshop. Yes, thank you, Stéphanie. Hello, everyone. So I'm Xavier from Dakar. We created the À Ciel Ouvert Film Festival 10 years ago. And the specificity of this festival is that it's decentralized. We are in rural areas close to Mauritania and Mali, and we set up the festival in rural areas, and we wanted to see how in these areas where there are strong challenges, since the climate is very difficult, it's a desert, there's a lot of migration, there's nomadism, etc., and how artists and culture could act on development. We graduated our action by started from accessible art, more obvious to the populations with theater, music, dance, and then we scaled up and went to digital arts and cinema. And what we wanted, we started working on film, producing 2 short films 2 years ago. And we work as the others in workshops. We try to have equality in gender in the groups. It is not easy, and you're right to put your finger on it. It's true that in these rural areas, there are many obstacles to overcome for these young women, especially once they get married. And we try to produce these short films. And last year, in 2018, we had a little approach in terms of animation to see if it could trigger interest. And we have scripts that we find on location, and we thought that the best expression would be animation. So we went to production last year, and it was a great success. All of the young people loved it, and I believe that this is going to become a real support for us in terms of creation and understanding the world of cinema. Yes, when we prepared the roundtable yesterday, you told me that animation film was one of the most efficient levers to face the challenges that you are confronted to in your activities. Yes, there's a local symbolism and symbolic that is used permanently. We've been present for years. When I say we, it's not the team, but I've been here for 30 years already. The symbolism has expressed itself through the sand, objects, vegetables, and they initiated this and asked us to create what we did, a collection of short films. A commission for short films, Les Contes Heureux Africains de Demain, in which village people can empower themselves and talk about the environment, about sustainability, and this is something they wanted to do, and animation films gave them this desire to do so. We worked on plastic, also the issue of plastic and how traditional fishermen are confronted to these issues. And there was an effect. All of the workshops are public. People can watch and take a look at what we're doing. It's very friendly, open, and all of a sudden, at the end of the festival, during the screening, after it, we always have discussions organized, and very quickly this idea came up. And so we decided to organize these tales, environmental tales. So in Dakar Court, you will present some of the short films that you produced in the Saint-Louis region. Moly, perhaps you want to speak. You're organizing a short film festival. First fiction films, but in the next edition, you want to go closer into animation. Can you tell us a few words about that? You need to open your microphone, Moly. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be part of this panel. And yes, Dakar Court is a fiction festival, film festival, dedicated to the diaspora. It was organized in 2018 by the Cinémarec organization. And there are cinema clubs around the country. I'm a president of those. And since the first edition, like Laza, Laza had organized a good programming in animation in 2018, and this was received a warm welcome. And we were interested to see how things were going in Madagascar. We were curious, and we saw that young people who evolved in Senegal were starting to work on animation projects. And recently, we received about 10 animation projects that we sent to the Annecy Film Festival. And the idea was in 2021, in December, to have animation films in Dakar Court, the Dakar Court Film Festival, because currently young people belong to cine clubs, and it's very important to enhance animation films. They're not yet in competition, but have focuses, as we did with Laza, and we'll do it in the Film Festival of Annecy, and have a sort of carte blanche in animation. We're going to show some films this year. Thank you very much, Moly. We often read that animation for young is for young audiences also. It's also for adults as well. I wanted to know if the fact that you turned towards animation was due to the audiences that are present, or are you going to work with school children? Because I remember with emotion that I assisted in Meknès or the RFC Madagascar screenings, and often in your festivals, this is where children have a first experience with films and cinema. So it's fantastic to be a witness of these first cinematic emotions. And so I wanted to know if you want to promote these future filmmakers or the filmmakers of tomorrow. Perhaps Mohamed, you want to say a word? Yes, for Meknès, it's not exclusively, so to speak, or I won't have enough time to talk about all the activities of our festival. We have 20 years of experience. And as I said, we have an audience now, but it's not exclusively a children audience. It's the base, it's the future of Morocco and of Africa in general. We need to educate children and teach them about images so they can understand the code, as we are doing at the Meknès Film French Institute. We have projects to educate in terms of images. So we do have work with childhood, youth, but family sessions as well that work very well. At the French Institute, we have good digital equipment, 3D equipment. So these family sessions are great successes. We also have the picnic weekend organized where families can come and to see watch a film and have a sandwich. And there are also festivals where people need to buy their tickets. We are in our countries, it's often free, but so we invite different associations, but we also insist on people paying for a ticket symbolically €1, €2, so that just to say that culture isn't free. So what we do is that the competition is not addressed. It's not made for the younger audiences, but we have adult films as well, and there's no censorship. We can have minus 12 of age, minus 16 years of age, as in other countries, but we can have very political films, films that talk about society. And the festival is a place to discuss, to meet others, to talk about society, to talk about equality, and it is parody. We talk about films. So, there are a lot of girls. Girls are more present in our workshops. So it's an animation film festival, but it's more than that. We have a project, an educational project to raise awareness, and the time given today will not let me speak about everything, but we have the support of different groups. And for a few months now, the two public Moroccan channels have launched during their call for projects to finance projects for television. For the first time, it's historical, there was a call for tender for Moroccan series, and that's a first. So for me, that is a great victory. And I think that the festival contributed to this in a very small proportion, of course, but it means that people are ready and there, and we will be able probably to launch an industry of Moroccan animation films. We will be able to finance the projects, and this will have repercussions on training in the future. Yes, indeed, you are linking two themes of this roundtable, but it's perfect. We have a connection issue. Stéphanie, are you back? Yes, can you hear me? We had a power cut. Okay, we talked about the schemes that existed for education to image education for young audiences, school children, that perhaps triggered vocation or callings. Xavier is working with schools, film schools. I think there are 2 in Senegal. And Laza, you are working with the schools as well. And you are also working in the provinces, since the festival doesn't only take place in Tana. But I believe that all these schemes have helped people want to work in films. And they're not necessarily film schools as in Senegal, but even less so in terms of animation film schools. So these the festivals are people where people can find how to become professionals, find the right information, and their support with, for example, French subsidies or other subsidies. Laz, could you say a few words about your schemes in your country? What exists? Yes. So for us, it's quite simple. We show about more than 300 films during an edition, and we now have an audience that is of 20,000 people. Out of these 20,000, about 40% are young people between 3 and 12 to 13 years old. Every morning, for the programming, we have sessions dedicated to children in the morning, 3 to 12 years old, and we have focuses with ANSI, and we show children films. And for each edition, we work with schools, and there are children that are watching a film for the first time in their life. And it is true that it is a fantastic experience. These screenings fill up very quickly. And for RFC, for the festival, it's a partnership with the Institut Français in Madagascar, but also with the 20 Alliances Françaises, French alliances. So in the provinces, we are very present. We are present around the country, but the place of children is special to us. And it is also the case for the entire continent. I think there's a generation in Madagascar. The movie theaters have started to close in the 1980s, and I believe that there's a new generation of Africans, 30 years old, who never left their country, never saw films in a movie theater. And it is my case. The first film I saw in a movie theater was in Paris. So there's a whole generation for me that has been lost, so to speak. And now the movie theaters have reopened 3-4 years ago. And this is why, for us, the future is the children. And this is why we work on those aspects, children, very much. And we go in jails as well and try to raise awareness and to show films. It's true that RFCs has also helped identify new talents, people that the festival have supported. And I think that as FESPACO, it's the same thing. You need to identify the new talents, and you also organize an important event. Moussa, I think you organized the first meetings for animation in Africa, which with a Pan-African call for projects would help valorize animation in Africa. And what have you planned for the next edition? Will there be a focus on animation, since the FESPACO has a market now? There's a specific market for that. Yes, thank you, Stéphanie. Before answering to your question, I'd like to go back to what Mohamed said for the concerning audiences. Maybe in animation African film, we need to stop thinking that animation is only made for children. And in fact, in Japan, we see directors that are 60 years old and they continue to make animation film. So this is to say that as if we said that comics are only made for children, we know that we are all interested in comics, even at a late time in life. And so we need to stop thinking that animation is only made for younger audiences. There are all kinds of age groups that can be interested in animation. And if this is not done, we won't have the impact we want with animation. So it's important to talk about education in Africa. We want animation films to be respected in Africa. And concerning training, what Mohamed and Laza are doing and what is done in Abidjan, it's very important. On the African, in African countries, there are big studios, but for animation, it's not separate from feature films. And there are places where animation films are totally ignored. And it is part of cinema and made in different conditions, of course. If you have a good computer, if you're in Madagascar, you can say, even if we know that they steal the software, it's possible, but we know it's different from classic films. We need to know how to support animation. Unfortunately, in policies, it is totally ignored. On the national level, animation film is totally ignored. We see these for when there are calls for projects, and we feel that it doesn't even exist. It's not important to film. But this is a real obstacle to creativity because there is pressure. And if we don't overcome that, we will still continue to be in these short formats of films. And we need to go one step further to see feature films now. And in Abidjan, with the collective, they try to work on feature films. This is what we need. We need to change the African animation film industry in Africa. So by talking about industry, at the FESPACO Film Festival 2 years ago, we had a meeting around animation films, and we spoke with ANSI to see how we could have a true co-production market for animation. Whatever the laboratories, the reason, there's animation film doesn't have the right place it should have. And this is why with co-productions, it would help. We could have seen with the MIFA how there could be a special place to co-produce animation films in Africa. And we will, it's not just for training, we want to have professionals, people who are really interested in animation. And with the MIFA, we are trying to see how we can facilitate the access to animation. It is important today to have these panels and to try to think about how we can enable these filmmakers to really be visible. And this is how, as Laza or Moly start. Mohamed, you wanted to react? Yes, I wanted to react to what Moussa said. We cannot. We need public channels. Public authorities to react, to give a place to animation films. France is a good example because French television invests a lot in animation French films to provide an identity, but we don't have this here. In my country, animation film directors are not recognized as they should. A young Moroccan cannot give a film, show a film to the and to find subsidies for his film, since the the status is not acknowledged. So there is no status, so to speak. People will answer, oh, you make animation films, short films, you're not a film director. So they need to have the means to otherwise, these will be just individual experiences here and there scattered, and they will have no strength. This is not enough to really speak about an industry or a market. It is impossible to speak about a market in animation in Africa if the public authorities, public television channels do not get involved. Yes, when we talk about lobbying, that is also what you're trying to do in your festivals. Maybe Abel, you want to react?
Oui, tout à fait. Je pense
Yes,
que le débat est quand
I
même assez
think the debate is
intéressant
very
sur
interesting
l'accompagnement,
when we
soit
talk about the
le cadre
support
que
of
met en
public
place cette
authorities,
loi
the
pour
framework that
accompagner
is
l'animation.
set up.
Aujourd'hui, en Côte
Today in
d'Ivoire,
the Ivory Coast, we have different schemes to help generally the film industry and audiovisual industry. And today, the actors in animation are helped. There's a fund that exists here, and I am a member of this fund as animation film producer. So this shows there is a true interest of public authorities to see what is happening in that area. And there are public TV channels who are trying to put money in. They haven't put enough to produce animation, but I believe that little by little, the lobbying group is done, and we are trying to raise awareness, and they will understand that animation as a product for television is costly. It takes time, but they need to support it, and they need to dedicate funds to these local projects. We need to get organized. This is what we're doing with the festival, as Mohamed said. His festival has existed for 19 years now, the FICAM. So I think that the work is already ongoing. It has started, and we're very optimistic. This is why we are here today. And I think that things will get organized. It's now the moment to take advantage of what already exists. We know, of course, that on some territories, the producers or filmmakers in animation are not acknowledged, not recognized as such. But so we need the laws to help them as well. We talked about the involvement of public authorities. And several of your film festivals are co-organized or in your different countries, and we are very happy of the support that exists, of course, and I find it very interesting to look at the example Mohamed gave us, the link that is starting to exist with the television channels, Canal Olympia. Have your festivals been able to help to help them to launch as springboard stepping stones? And is it an objective for your film festivals? Laz?
Oui, moi, pour aller un peu dans le
Yes.
sens avant que Moussa il
Before
quitte,
Moussa leaves, I just wanted to say that what we're doing, as I said in the beginning, are emergency solutions, but the real solution is for public authorities to really take part and start doing things. And I believe that at some point, African people, because it is even more important in animation, because if we do make films for adults, we have a lot of films for children. So we're talking about education here, and we need, as Africans, to educate children with the images that we produce, which means money. We need money to make our films, and the money must come from Africa. In majority, at least. So it would be better if the money currently comes from the Northern Hemisphere. So things are possible. You know, we've been doing what we're doing now for 16 years here, and these are just little bandages, little helps, but the statistics speak clearly. For animation in general, I know that there are 10 countries who were able to have a financial help organized. And that is very recent, only 4 or 5 years old.
Oui, tu vas devoir nous laisser,
Yes, Moussa, you have to leave? Okay. Yes, I'll become a moderator, and here you can become a moderator for us. You can, or Laza. I have to leave, unfortunately. Sorry for jumping in, but just before leaving, I want to say what is urgent and what is important is really to have a market for animation film in the African continent. And yes, some countries have a lot of experience. In Morocco, for example, as with Mohamed. But if we don't federate our actions, if we don't have a platform, if I can say the word, I think that the different countries will also enjoy these films that are produced in Africa. And I think that if we professionals don't put in place these platforms or structures, it will be complicated to have investments from those that are necessary. So we have experience in feature films, and there are references in animation now. And what I would do is I really want to push forward, to push this market. And we need actions and strategies. This year, it's going to be short, but for animation films, there's my brother Abel in Abidjan, in Senegal will be honored guest as well. We are here we'll be all together in Ouaga. We could all meet. In fact, it's just a few hours and we could get, okay, I'm going to have to leave. Could you just remind us of the festival's date? 16 October, beginning of the festival. Let's meet in Ouaga then. Moussa needs to leave. We just have 5-10 minutes to continue discussing. Maybe Jérôme in Cameroon. Do you want to react? By Moussa, of the involvement of the different institutions, local television channels. You want to react, talk about professionalism. In fact, it's true that each country has its own specificity, and for Cameroon, it's very difficult still. It's very difficult here to get help from the public authorities for animation, but I believe that we need to continue doing what we're doing, because with time, I think that they will see the importance of animation. And there is almost no youth programs here. It's so it would be important to have a partnership with a television channel. And usually, there are older people in power, and it's difficult for them to see the importance and the interest for other people than children. They have difficulties understanding what animation is, in fact. So what we're doing is trying to continue to work in that direction, to push for animation, to help them understand that it is a strong industry, important for African culture, because we continue to watch animation that is done elsewhere, and that shows different cultures, the cultures that are not our culture. We need to push young people. And the first objective with the association is to help children understand what they see on children, to know that they can do it as well. So children are the ones who watch animation a lot, and it's important to tell them they can tell their own stories, and this is the work that we want to pursue and continue to do, enable young people to go in that
Jérôme, est-ce que
field,
tu
work in
peux
that field.
rappeler
Could
les
you
dates
remind us
de
of
la
the
prochaine
dates
édition
of the next edition of
CANIMAF?
CANIMAF?
Le CANIMAF aura lieu du
CANIMAF
14 au 16 octobre.
14th to 16th of
Donc, ce sera une
October,
version en ligne.
online version.
Super, merci
Thank
Jérôme.
you, Jérôme.
Je
I
voulais donner la
wanted to
parole à
give the floor to
Xavier,
Xavier,
qui m'a parlé hier
who
d'un
talked about
projet
a
de centre de
project of a
formation à
training
la production
center
artistique avec une
for
formation dédiée au cinéma sur une année,
artistic
qui est un gros
aspects and
projet de
film.
l'association
There's a
Globe et du
great
festival à ciel
project
ouvert.
by Globe and Ciel
Alors,
Ouvert.
je ne sais pas si
I don't
Xavier
know
est
if
toujours
Xavier
là.
is still with us.
Si, le voilà.
Yes, he's here.
Et puis peut-être
And
Xavier, pour
perhaps
conclure aussi,
to conclude,
nous redonner les
you
dates de la
will
prochaine
give us the
édition
dates of
qui sera
the
en 2022,
next
je crois.
edition of your
Oui, tout
festival
à
in
fait. Excusez-moi,
2022.
j'ai une autre réunion qui
Yes,
a
I have
commencé à
another
côté.
meeting that just started.
Le prochain
So the next
festival aura lieu
festival
le
will take
25,
place from
26 et 27
25,
février
26,
2022.
27 of February
Et effectivement, on
22.
a au bout de
And
10
after
ans
10
d'action
years
sur
of
le
activity
terrain,
on the
on
field,
répond à une
we
demande
are
forte des populations
answering
qui nous
to
voient
a
venir et
demand from
repartir à
the
chaque fois. Enfin,
populations
on est très
who
présent,
see
mais
us
de
coming
manière
and
pérenne.
leaving,
Donc,
but
on a
they want
décidé
us in a
se
more
lancer dans la construction
sustainable
d'une
way.
infrastructure
And
qui sera sans
we
doute le premier
decided
centre de
to
formation
create a training
décentralisé
center,
d'Afrique, puisque c'est un lieu où
a
on
place where we will
formera, comme vous
train
le faites
people, as you
tous,
are all
mais
doing,
encore une
but
fois, en grande
once again,
décentralisation, et on produira aussi
decentralizing,
depuis cet
and we
espace-là.
will
Donc,
create
c'est un centre de
there.
formation et de
So it's a
production à
center to
600
make
km
films,
de Dakar, en
600 kilometers
l'occurrence.
away
Et
from
puis,
Dakar.
pour rebondir
And
sur ce que
to
j'entends dans le
come
rapport
back to what I
aux
heard
institutions,
about
il y a des choses qui
institutions,
fonctionnent, et
there are
effectivement, mais
things that
je comprends
work,
certaines
but
frustrations
I
parfois.
understand the
Nos
frustrations
courts-métrages
that we can have.
ont été produits
Our
donc
short
totalement
films were
localement,
produced locally,
ont eu la chance,
entirely
et Moly
locally,
le
and
sait,
Moly
d'avoir
knows
été
it.
présentés
They were
À
presented in
Dakarcourt, on a
Dakarcourt.
rencontré
That's where we
vous
met
tous, les
you all,
internationaux d'ici et d'ailleurs. Ça
internationals.
nous a emmenés au festival de
We went to the
Clermont-Ferrand. Au festival de
Clermont-Ferrand Film
Clermont-Ferrand, on
Festival, and in
rencontre
Clermont-Ferrand we met
Christine, etc.,
Christine,
etc.
etc.,
Et
etc.
finalement, nos
And
films
then
sont
finally
diffusés
our
dans toutes les
films
salles
were
Canal
shown in
Olympia
Canal Olympia
après
after
Clermont-Ferrand.
Clermont-Ferrand.
On noue un
And
partenariat
we created a
avec
partnership
Vivendi,
with
évidemment,
Vivendi,
l'Institut français est
the
partenaire.
French
Et on voit bien qu'il y a une
Institute,
chaîne comme
Institut
ça
Français,
de
and we
production
see
initiale
that
qui trouve ses débouchés
there
de
are
diffusion
new
grâce
channels
à Dakarcourt, puis à toute
to
la chaîne
show the films
de partenaires
thanks
du monde
to
du
the
cinéma.
different
Mais
partners.
c'est vrai
But it is
que
true
derrière,
that
on fait le
we
constat un peu
notice,
difficile et brutal que
unfortunately, and this is
les
brutal, that the
institutions
institutions
souvent ne sont pas au
often are
rendez-vous.
not there
Et,
when needed.
c'est quand
And
même
it
difficile,
is
je trouve, pour...
difficult, I
alors,
think.
je vais partir au
I'm going to
Sénégal,
talk
mais
about
Moly en parlerait
Senegal, and
mieux que
Moly
moi,
would speak about
puisqu'il
it even
agit
better
à
than
longueur
me.
d'année dans le secteur.
He's
Mais
been in
c'est vrai que c'est toujours
this field for
déstabilisant
many years. But
d'entendre
it is
effectivement que chacun
important to hear.
souvent dit bon, j'ai commencé avec
Yes,
l'Institut
people
français, ou je diffuse à
often
l'Institut
say, yes,
français,
I've
etc.,
started with the
et qu'en même
Institut
temps
Français,
il y a des vraies
but
volontés
there
de
are
création. La narration,
their creation
le
is there.
storytelling,
There's a
l'histoire
desire
qui doit
to
être
tell stories. The
amenée dans les
storytelling
films,
must
c'est celle qu'on trouve de
appear.
manière totalement indépendante, en grande décentralisation. Et dès que je reviens en
And when I
ville
come back
et que je
to
côtoie
cities, it's mostly
les
in rural
créateurs
areas. But when
entre
I
jeunes
come
sur
back
scène,
to
j'entends
the
des
big
discours,
cities,
évidemment,
what
que
I
je n'entends
hear
pas
are
en
things that I do
ruralité,
not
où
hear
on est
elsewhere,
totalement indépendant.
where we are
Mais dès
more
qu'on arrive
independent.
à la porte de la ville,
So whenever
se
you
retrouve
reach the
effectivement
city, you're
face là
confronted
au monde
to
institutionnel
institutions,
et là
and
beaucoup de questions se posent.
there are a lot of
Moly,
questions
peut-être
that come
de
up.
Dakar, tu veux
You
réagir?
want to react, Mohamed?
Alors, ton micro est
Your
coupé, Moly.
Moly, sorry, your microphone is off.
Ouais, merci beaucoup. En fait, je disais effectivement,
Yes,
je salue
indeed.
l'initiative des frères qui sont au nord du Sénégal.
So I want to
Parce que c'est important
say
de
these
lier,
different initiatives are extremely
là
important
où
in the different
des pays
countries, and
dans le nord du
in the
Sénégal
north
qui
of
sont
Senegal,
diffusés, c'est des actions
there
accompagnées
are actions
à
that are
Saint-Louis,
supported in Saint-Louis,
par nous ici, on se débrouille
and
comme vous le
what we
savez.
do here is
La prochaine édition de Dakar
we are
Film
having
sera
the
du 6
second edition
au
from the
11
2nd to
septembre
11th of
2021. Ce sera en présentiel et en
October
ligne.
2021.
Formidable.
Mais largement en
It
présentiel.
will be in face-to-face mostly, so we invite all of our partners, of course,
Et nos autres frères qui sont
and
sur
all
le
of
festival, c'est
the
très
other
important
panelists
aussi en
to
Afrique,
join us.
s'organise ensemble, qu'on se fédère ensemble, qu'on puisse savoir ce que nous
Uh,
faisons
And
ensemble.
it's interesting to be able to talk together, to know what's happening, what everyone is doing, and it's important to work together because we really can work jointly. It's important to create partnerships, work in association.
Alors, justement, c'était
Yes,
un peu
that
ma
was
dernière
my
question
last
pour
question
conclure.
to
C'était effectivement
conclude
quels
was
étaient les liens,
what
quelles
were
étaient
the
les
links, the
coopérations à
different
venir entre
cooperations to
vos
come
différents
between the
festivals.
different film
Peut-être
festivals, and
Abel,
maybe
pour conclure
Abel,
les dates, et puis
you could
s'il
give
y a des
some
liens aussi qui
dates
se créent
and
avec
say
d'autres festivals, d'autres
whether
pays.
links with other festivals or countries are
Déjà, les dates, c'est du
being born.
27 au 29 mai
From
2022.
29th
lors
of
de
May is the end of the date of my
l'édition
film festival
2021.
for 2021.
Les
We
partenariats qu'on a
have a
tissés avec
partnership
d'autres
with
festivals,
other
par
film
exemple,
festivals.
peut-être qu'il aurait peut-être fallu qu'il soit du panel, donc le festival
Fupitum
en Afrique du
in
Sud,
South Africa.
qui on avait fait des partages de
We
programmation.
shared our
Ça s'est
programming.
plutôt bien
It
passé.
went very
Et
well.
on est en contact également
We are also in contact
avec Jérôme,
with Jérôme,
son festival CANIMAF.
CANIMAF Film
Je pense
Festival,
que
CANIMAF,
finalement, on va réussir à
and
mettre
I
sur place
think
quelque chose
we
d'intéressant
will
par
be
rapport
able
à nos
to
différentes
create
activités.
something
Et
meaningful
puis, bien sûr,
together.
on est
And
ouvert
we are,
à
of
des
course,
échanges
open
juste
to
après
discussion.
le
And
festival,
I
voir comment
hope that
arriver
this
à
panel will
créer une
help
sorte de
to
dynamique
create
autour de ce qui
some
se fait
momentum
déjà.
around
En
what
tout cas,
already
je suis vraiment
exists.
partant pour ça.
I'm
Et je
really
pense que ça
all
pourrait
for
être
it.
bénéfique pour tout
And
ce qui se fait de façon générale.
I'm very
Déjà sur les
enthusiastic about
territoires
everything that's
francophones
being
et par la
done
suite, pourquoi pas, sur
in
les
the French-speaking territories and
Merci
elsewhere
Abel, et
as
puis vous
well.
êtes
So
tous
thank you,
partenariat, je
Abel. I
crois,
think
avec le
you're
Festival du film
working in
d'animation
partnership with
d'Annecy, qui
Annecy
nous
as
accueille
well.
aujourd'hui. Peut-être, Laz, les dates
Last, the dates of
des
the
prochains, de la
the
prochaine
next
édition des
edition
RFC,
of
et puis quelques
RFC,
mots
and
de
then
conclusion.
let's conclude.
Nous,
We
habituellement, on est au mois
usually
d'avril à cause de
have
la
our festival in
situation. Donc, l'année
April, but
dernière, on a
given the
fait l'édition
situation,
au mois de
we
novembre.
organized it in
En ce moment, on est
November.
encore en train de
We
voir
are
la
still
date,
trying
mais
to
il y
figure
aurait
out the
la seconde
dates, but
édition cette
we
année.
will
Mais bon,
organize the
on va
next
annoncer
edition
ça
this
très
year,
prochainement.
and we'll announce it
16e édition cette
shortly.
année.
16th
Oui.
edition
Très
this
bien,
year.
merci.
Great.
Et enfin,
And
peut-être
finally,
Mohamed, alors
Mohamed,
on n'a pas eu le
we
temps
didn't have
de
time
parler
to
des
speak about
résidences
the residencies,
d'écriture, et je
writing
crois que vous avez une
residencies, and
toute
I
nouvelle
think you have a
résidence de
new one
développement de
to
projet
develop
avec la net
projects.
animation. Mais en tout cas, c'est un travail assez
But it
formidable que
is
vous menez
fantastic work
pour
you are
accompagner des
doing to
projets
support
d'animation.
projects in animation.
Alors peut-être nous donner
Perhaps
les
you can
dates
give you
de
the
cette
dates of
prochaine
the
édition, qui
next
sera, je
edition,
crois,
which
une
will
édition axée
be
sur les professionnels
focused
et sur la
on professionals and
professionnalisation. Et puis peut-être
professionalization,
quelques mots
and
de
maybe a
conclusion,
few words
Mohamed.
to conclude,
Alors
Mohamed.
la prochaine
The
édition, c'est
next
durant le
edition,
16 octobre,
11th to
donc c'est une
16th of
édition
October,
confidentielle
it's a
puisque
face-to-face meeting
le gouvernement
because
marocain
the
a permis de
Moroccan
réouvrir les salles,
government
donc je sais qu'ils
authorized
sont par
the
rapport à la
reopening
capacité de
of
la salle.
movie
Donc
theaters.
ça c'est une très bonne nouvelle. Donc mois
This is
d'octobre
great
11 au 16,
news, and in
et puis deux résidences
October
maison
11th to
d'écriture et deux
16th,
maisons
and then a
développement
writing
qui
residency
vont
will be
démarrer à partir du
organized,
3 octobre.
which
Donc
will
voilà, nous sommes très
start
contents,
on
ça permet de
October
pouvoir
3rd.
organiser
We
des
are
rencontres,
very happy about this,
accueillir de nouveau les
and we
étudiants
will
dans les ateliers
welcome
de formation.
students
Et
for
puis donc
these
l'édition
workshops. and an edition in March 2020 to the 20th edition of the FICAM. We will have the dates in the future, but I'm very happy. I want to thank the Annecy Film Festival for this carte blanche that was given to us, and the Grand Maghreb Animé. Thanks, Annecy. Thank you all for this great initiative. So we will celebrate the 20 years anniversary of the FICAM next year. Yes, I hope I will be able to see everyone in Meknès, and it is really great to have this network and work together, seeing animation filmed from the entire African continent, having this carte blanche and to be able to represent artists. It's fabulous, and have people there in the festivals. Thank you all for taking part. Thanks Unifrance for organizing this meeting and possibility to meet. And once again, a great thanks to all of you. You are really crucial to animation films, and meet with you again for the next editions of all the festivals. Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Goodbye. Bye, everyone.